up that bathroom was almost as bad as whatever caused the mess in the first place. The smell was awful, and I had to pay a local carpenter to help me out with some of the messier stuff. The landlord was very understanding, but it was clear that fixing this was not up for debates. She might be nice, but she had no tolerance for destruction of property. I couldn't blame her. Luckily, Roy the carpenter gave me a fair price. But by far, the toughest part to clean was the blue splotches left by the stinking goo that tumbled out of the shower head. It sort of burned into the ceramic, leaving small stains behind. It took a lot of sweat and baking soda to even reduce it to a light blue. The worst by far was the smell. No matter what I brought into the bathroom, it was all overshadowed by this awful chemical odor. It just didn't go away, and it burned my throat something awful. Little over a week into January, I met up with John again. I was feeling a bit weak, like a cold was coming on. I thought about staying home, but John insisted, and I got the feeling he wasn't the kind of person you should say no to. Arriving at the same old corner pub, I found John with a nacho plate and a beer. He wasn't even pretending to eat something this time. He tucked the stray hairs of silver behind his ear as if to cover them up. "You alright there?" he asked. "Might be coming down with something," I sighed. "But don't tell me I didn't warn you." "You did," he nodded. "I usually don't catch stuff like that. Haven't for years." "Oh yeah?" I smiled. "How come?" "Company secrets," he said, tapping his forehead. He pushed the nacho plate to me and leaned in. There were a few other guests in the back, but I got the impression no one was listening. Maybe John was a regular. "I still don't get it," I said. "I don't understand what the hell that thing was." "I'm not sure what to call them," he said with a shrug. "But if you don't want to see more of them, you should stay out of Perch Pond." "Never heard of it." "All the better." "Oh, and don't die." "Don't die?" "Yeah, don't die." I didn't even try to understand. I just stuffed my face with cheese and corn chips, hoping it'd magically cure me. It didn't, but I didn't mind trying. "I think what came out of the pipes was a fluke," said John. "Most of our water runs through a nearby reservoir, and they've been having some trouble. I think something dislodged and got into the system." "Nasty stuff," I said in between bites. "Not a fan. If you find more of it, save it. That stuff has tons of metals in it." "Metals? What kind of metals?" "The kind you can't blame for being there." "That makes no sense." I wiped my face and drank my beer. John just looked at me, hands crossed. "I'm asking you," he said. "If that stuff comes up again, save it. Take it to me. If you told me why, I might be more inclined to do so. Do I need a reason for you to help me?" I hadn't been entirely serious, but John was nothing but. I could see the red of his eye poking out from the dark sunglasses. This wasn't him asking nicely. "Sure," I nodded. "Fine. Thank you." He leaned back, looking over his shoulder. When he was sure no one was watching, he patted me on the shoulder and handed me an inch-thick wad of $100 bills. "Take a few days off," he said. "Get some cough syrup." That night I was struck with a fever, a nasty sweat through the night kind of murder fever. The kind of fever where you're too dehydrated to sleep and too tired to move, where you get the shakes just from moving your hands and it's too warm to stay under the covers. It was one of the worst fevers I'd ever had, and when I started to drift in and out of consciousness, I knew it was getting bad. I had to call in sick. There were a few angry voices on the other end, telling me I should have said something sooner. I was too tired to answer. I considered quitting there and then. Maybe I did. By that point, I hadn't decided what to do next. I'd signed up for this Yearwalk thing, but there was nothing stopping me from leaving town. I could go back home, try to patch things up, maybe get a job at my stepdad's store. It wasn't a bad idea, but it felt like giving up. But standing there on my knees, worshipping the porcelain throne, I just wanted to be anywhere or do anything else. The next morning, after a few hours of falling in and out of sleep, I woke up to the feeling of something sticky on my face. Turns out, Sometime during the night, I coughed up something bad. My pillow and part of the covers were stained with that same foul-smelling goo I touched in the shower about a week earlier. These thick black globs leaving blue stains on my face, my hands, my chest, and all over my bed. It was a complete mess, and the smell was nauseating. I hurried to the bathroom, fetched a towel, and tried to scrub my face clean. It was like being sprayed with permanent ink. I could scrub and scrub for minutes, but nothing happened. And by God, my mouth tasted like death. I drowned myself with mouthwash, trying to burn away the taste. As I started to feel it dissipate, there was a sudden sound, a sharp, piercing noise going straight from my ears and into my stomach. Who knew cell phones could be so loud? I reflexively swallowed, burning mouthwash straight down the gullet. The end result wasn't pretty. This is how I learned that everything in my stomach had turned into this black, rancid goo. It would come to me in waves. I could feel fine for about an hour, then it would just drain me. I'd cough up these black nuggets of goo over and over. The one saving grace was the taste slowly disappearing. Maybe I was just getting used to it. I couldn't eat. Everything I ate just turned into more goo, and my stomach filled up with it. I'd be so hungry that I couldn't think, and I still couldn't bring myself to eat a single bite. I pretty much lived in the bathroom, trying to work up the energy to call for help. Then again, I didn't have insurance. I stayed in the bathroom for the next 12 hours. When I finally managed to drink some water and take a shower, it was already dark outside. Finally, having enough strength to move, I stumbled out looking for my phone. I had to call for help, but as I did, I had a quick look outside my window. There, on the other side of the street, was a dark shape. At the edge of the street light, it looked like a strange shadow. At first, I thought I was looking at it through a weird angle, my sleep-deprived brain riddled with misunderstandings. But after a few seconds, it dawned on me that this was a physical being, close to 11 feet tall and completely oil-slick black. I couldn't believe my eyes. I picked up my phone, stepped back, and looked for John's number. My fingers shook so much I put in the wrong code twice. I never turned my back on that window. The thing was tall enough to reach inside my goddamn bedroom. "You feeling better?" John's voice came through. "No!" I screamed. "No, it's... oh God!" "What? What's happening?" I started coughing. I tried to catch my breath. "Something is... I'm not... Something is what?" I walked around the room trying to see the thing from a different angle. I couldn't see it. Maybe it was too dark. Maybe it had just been a long shadow to begin with. "Something is what?" he repeated. I think I'm seeing things." "Are you in danger? Do you need something?" I need help. I'm not feeling well." "Listen to me. Is there an immediate physical threat to you right now?" I looked outside. I tried to see something. I tried to make myself see something. But whatever had been there was gone. "No," I sighed. "No, I'm not." "Then I'll come by in a couple of hours. I'll know what'll help. Not more nachos and a beer, right? Not until you're back on your feet." I fetched a blanket and curled up on the couch. I probably had to throw away my bed completely as the blue stains sunk through the mattress. I realized there was no way I was getting rid of the smell. Then again, I had plenty of extra cash on hand, more than enough for a bed. What the hell did John do for a living anyway? As my stomach calmed, I drifted off to a restless sleep. That night, I dreamt of a deep cave. A cave so dark and deep that you couldn't evolve ears that would outlast the pressure. Where bones would break and sinew froze. Where the jelly-like bodies bumped into one another in the blind dark. Senses developed over countless millennia to determine if the other bodies were friend, foe, or something else entirely. I felt my scales rubbing against the others, my kin. Hundreds of friends and mates. Some danced around me, others disappeared in a heartbeat. A rush of water, pressure building up. Something large. Teeth. I woke up with a gasp. A gelatinous sweat covered my body. It was so thick I could scrape it off with my fingernails. And covering the entire bedroom window was the largest oil black hand I'd ever seen. It was trying to get the lock open. I jumped off the couch, almost slipping on my sweaty feet. What the fuck? I just screamed out reflexively. As I did, it retracted. It was fast and completely soundless, like bumping into a little fish in the dark of a nightmare. I decided I'd count the hours until John got there. I tried sending him a text, but my fingers were too slippery for the screen. I wasn't going to turn my back on that window, so I just had to wait. I could do that. I could wait. I thought back on that thing I'd seen in the bathroom, that monstrous thing calling me the little wheat. Maybe this is why it didn't eat me. Maybe whatever dropped out of that shower head was so awful that it made an otherworldly predator turn its back on me. And maybe this was the price I had to pay for surviving that night. Or maybe I was out of my fucking mind ranting deliriously. A strange thing happens when you have such a violent fever. You lose perception of the passage of time, and to me, I had no idea how long I'd been sitting there. But the room felt darker. Could have been hours, could have been minutes. I had no way to tell. It was back. This time, it was standing tall enough to face me through the window, just standing there, following me with its swiveling head. It felt like watching a silent rattlesnake, a creature coiled up ready to strike, but with no visible warning signs as to when. It wanted something from me. I could feel it. I slowly stepped away from the couch, my legs struggling not to buckle. I got my phone and moved closer to the door, inch by inch, not letting my eyes wander. It followed me. It had a blank, eyeless face, but it followed me. I tried my hardest to make smooth, quiet motions. I barely breathed. My stomach was struggling from the weight of my movement, and my eyes had trouble focusing. And yet, I could clearly see it through the window. The long neck, the oil-slick skin in perpetual movement as vague colors swirled across its surface. The vague outline of a skull buried somewhere deep. "Easy now," I whispered. "I'll just leave, alright? I'll leave." The phone rang. I fumbled it out of my pocket. I answered the call, hearing John's voice for a brief second. "I'm about 5-6 minutes away. A hand pressed against the glass as a little circle started to take shape. It was coming in. The goddamn thing was coming in. It's here," I yelled. "It's breaking the window. What is it? What's going on?" The glass surrendered as a perfect circle was sucked away. A tendril reached in to click the hatch open, and the window flung open. I ducked and dodged to the side as an impossibly long arm reached for me. I didn't make a single sound. If I hadn't seen it, I wouldn't know it was even there. In the dark, it'd be invisible. Something grabbed my ankle. It squeezed so hard I thought my leg would break. An acid texture burned something into me, leaving my body feeling suddenly cold, then scorching hot. It pulled me backwards, making me fall flat on my stomach. Luckily, I was too slippery and the hand lost its grip. I crawled forward, scrambling to get out of the front door. As I reached it, I turned around. I realized the thing was gone. I knew it couldn't be this easy. Still in my socks, a t-shirt and underwear, I got back on my feet. I listened. The thing didn't make a sound, but things it touched did. And I could hear the gutters creaking outside. It was moving to intercept. It was getting ahead of me. There was a metallic noise as something in the building rumbled. Barely remembering to breathe, I decided to hide. I got back to the bathroom and locked the door. It was all stained with blue spots. Even in the dark, I could feel the texture of where the spots were on the ceramic tiles. I held my breath and listened. Nothing. For a moment, I was safe. Then my stomach turned. It wasn't like the other times. This felt forced, like having something pulled out of me. I fell to my knees next to the toilet, and I felt something leaving my body, crawling out of my throat, wriggling and desperate to get away. I tried to scream, but it burned so bad I didn't know if I was even getting air into my lungs. When I finally heard myself pant and groan, I just gave up. There was no way for me to keep quiet. I heard rattling in the pipes, in the ventilation, in the drains like an excited rodent rushing for a meal. It was coming for me. A nightmare erupted. Hands coming out of every corner of the room, trying to pin me down. Elongated limbs tying my feet together. All of it causing that sensation of a chemical singing my flesh with plastic ice burn. I reached for the door handle, slowly feeling myself being pulled towards the back wall. My hand slipped off the handle over and over. "No!" I cried. "No! No! No!" That little fish in the dark, bumping its friends, foe, and others, and ahead of me I knew there was nothing but teeth and death. The bathroom door flung wide open. In the blink of an eye, I saw the bulbous head of the creature, pulled back to reveal a massive skull the size of my torso, a cranium covered in void black veins pulsating with excitement. John Digman grabbed my arm and pulled, hard. I thought he'd pull my arm straight out of the socket. Maybe the surprise of it all had the creature staggered as it let go. It retreated, hundreds of little tendrils getting sucked back into the pipes. "Fucking hell," John spat. "When the fuck did he get out of his fucking washing machine?" I leaned on him as he hurried to get me outside. I could see black goo running down my chest. I must have thrown up more than I thought. "That's it," John said. "You're staying with me. Enough of this." He helped me down the stairs where I could see my landlord smoking in the hallway. John walked straight past her. "No time, Leah," he said. "And keep your fucking brother away." "You're paying for the repairs," she smiled. "And you can fuck right off into your brother's shed." "You're welcome to join us." John kicked the front door open. And there it was, 11 feet tall, rippling with a pent-up strength. Like ripples in a river, the shakes were so violent I could hear the vibrations. Peeking out of the corners of its visage, I could spot parts of a giant skeleton hiding in the dark. "Jesus Christ, hold on." John dropped me like a sack of potatoes and rushed back inside. The creature immediately reached for me. It didn't bother staying quiet anymore, and it didn't care if I knew. The viper was striking. I pushed myself back against the wall, shielding myself, screaming my throat raw. But nothing came of it. A little flick in the dark as John held up my landlord's lighter. For a brief second, the creature just looked at us, repelled by the flame. "Just go back to sleep, Hank," John called out. "Or go back to the quarry. I don't fucking know what you do, but unless you want to become a walking fucking tire fire, you better fuck right off." It circled us, a single step taking it a car's length in either direction. It stared intently at us, glimpses of Death's head moving in and out of the void. "You got plenty of it up in the apartment," John said. "Take it. Leave us the fuck alone." Whatever bargain he struck must have worked. Moments later, it melted into the dark of the night and disappeared. John pushed me into his car. My mind was racing and I just looked around me. I could imagine shapes in the dark, like it was still out there. I tried to focus on a single thing to calm my heart, but nothing seemed to work. My stomach is still turned over and over like a washing machine. "Just stay awake," he said. "I think I know what you got, and I know what to do." What the fuck was that? "Right," he said. "Right. Hank. Yeah, we ought to talk about that." I focused on him. I bobbed my head back and forth, trying to keep my eyes from rolling back. John stepped on the gas. The little streaks of silver in his hair were solid metal, with little copper endings. They really were cables. You got... And I passed out. I have a vague memory of waking up every now and then. I remember being carried. I remember pain, pieces of tape, a beeping sound. I remember a bucket and John beating a machine to life. And as the sun rose, I woke up in a bed. John had to pump my stomach and put me on a round of dialysis. When I woke up, I thought that whole thing had been a nightmare. The sun was so warm, shining on my face, and the sheets were so soft, like no one had ever slept in that bed. John checked my temperature, took a blood sample, and had me swallow a handful of vitamins. He still wore his sunglasses. I just did what he said. I was so happy to not have my stomach turn that I didn't mind. I was already hankering for a sandwich, maybe some orange juice. "It's a sort of build-up," John said bluntly. "That shit stays in your system for a long time. I can get it out, but you'll need regular checkups." What is it?" He sat down on the edge of the bed, patting my bandaged leg. Most of me was bandaged from where the creature had burned me. "It's a sort of bacteria," he said. "It's sort of hard to explain. Try me. Imagine they're little pockets. Back when the world was still shaping itself, these little pockets of water deep beneath the sea, sealed shut, like bubbles. Some were small, some were big, and some were entire cave systems. All right." John got back up and looked out the window. For a moment, I feared a hand would appear, but nothing happened. "Now, imagine life evolved there," he continued. "Isolated and independent from everything else. Life that needs the nutrients and minerals contained in that ecosystem. Sure, like deep-sea creatures. Now, imagine all they have in the way of nutrients is this metal, a sort of fungus, and each other. That sensation I had in my dream, the crushing darkness, teeth. Now imagine these pockets bursting, little things exploding into a new environment, not knowing how to react. Sounds like Jurassic Park, exactly like that." He sat down on the floor next to me, leaning against the wall. I could see the edges of his eyes under the sunglasses. He looked so tired, like he hadn't slept for days, and yet he didn't blink. "There are just handfuls of them," he continued. "There's one outside the coast of New England, one in the Baltic Sea. I think there's one near the Bering Strait. They found one in Vietnam not too long ago. And these things come from there. Sorta, yeah. They're not really just one thing." John got back up and stretched. He adjusted his sunglasses, snapped his fingers, and headed for the door. "I'll get you breakfast. You'll be staying with me from now on." "Wait." He stopped by the door, looking back on me. "What does all this have to do with me? We're nowhere near New England." John nodded. "Right, yeah," he said. "There's that." He took a deep breath and put on a brave face. "The largest pocket in the world is right here in Tomskog, Minnesota," he smiled. "And it stretches for miles all the way up to Frog Lake.